He's got a run, Burton, look out! Oh! Well, I don't think Egan quite worked it out.
Oh yes, the Adelaide Crows are flying high. They've taken a stranglehold atop the AFL ladder. Sunday's win sending them a game and significant percentage clear in first place. And they're set to welcome back several injured players in the run towards September, including the forgotten ruckman in Ben Hudson. He's aiming to play a key role in the Crows' finals campaign after being given the all-clear to make his comeback from a knee reconstruction. Injured in August last year, he's aiming to return with SANFL club North Adelaide before the end of the month. Paul Dowling has the story.
Ben Hudson is winning his race against time. After a trouble-free recovery from the mother of all football injuries, he's daring to dream of playing a significant role in Adelaide's bid for September glory.
It's certainly a goal, but I'm not going to sort of hedge all my bets on it, and I'm just going to go out there and have fun. And look, if it so happens that I get my opportunity, I'll take it.
A revelation in ruck last season before rupturing his anterior cruciate ligament against Port Adelaide in round 20, Hudson will play for North Adelaide against Norwood at Prospect Oval on July 29. That's 2 weeks short of coach Neil Craig's once non-negotiable demand that Hudson spend at least 12 months on the sidelines. But Craig has backed down after surgeons convinced him of Hudson's excellent progress.
I think the surgeon just looked at the fact I'd had a pretty much trouble-free recovery, and I bribed him with a few red wines, but no, he was happy with it. And look, it came as a shock to me that he sort of gave me 2 weeks off, but look, we're working towards that, and hopefully, look, if all things go well in the next couple of weeks, that'll be the case.
Early in his rehabilitation, Hudson benefited from being a qualified physio.
I knew probably early on there was no real value in really pushing it to the limits. It was just sort of getting through and getting it right and getting the swelling and pain under control early.
And more recently, a series of gymnastics sessions have put the finishing touches to his recovery.
I mean, the first few weeks I was a bit, when he was asking me to jump off things, I was looking at him a bit jeb and saying, no, I don't think I'll do that. But yeah, it's slowly built over time, and it's just another sort of adjunct to something different I've done.
Hudson became Adelaide's #1 ruckman last season and will displace either Matthew Clark or Rhett Biglands when the Crows consider him ready for AFL action. And the Crows will welcome back more key players in the next month, with Ben Hart, Nathan Bock, Ian Perry and Scott Welsh on the verge of resuming from long-term injuries.
So there you have it. Ben Hudson's return will surely keep the Crows' incumbent ruckman on their toes, one of whom is Rhett Biglands, although he's got nothing to fear really because his form has been exceptional, and he joins us tonight. Rhett, good to have you back on the program. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks very much for having me on.
Between you and Maddie and Ivan and now Ben, there's an embarrassment of riches in the big man department. Does it become competitive?
Oh, it's always competitive. I mean, we had Sean Wren and David Pittman there at one stage with Matthew Clark, and it's always been tough to get a gig, but you know, it's crucial that you have an embarrassment of riches in that regard, because if you big fellas go down, you're in trouble. So hopefully we can all stay fit. Although with your 13 goals this year, you could always go and become a forward anyway, couldn't you? Well, hopefully. That's the only way to keep off the pine. But I've been fortunate in which Craigie's thrown me up there, so I've been very fortunate. How does the club avoid complacency in the final rounds? 9 to go, you're a game and percentage clear on top. How do you avoid complacency? I don't think complacency really comes into it. As long as the internal pressure for spots is there, which is going to happen with Ben Hudson, and every on-ball position that there is, there's always a queue of people waiting to get into the midfield, and even with the forward line with Ian Perry coming back into it and Scott Welsh, it's I think that the internal pressure is going to keep complacency out.
Rhett, every team has their style of play, their own way that they want to play the game. The one thing that I really admire about your club is that it just seems to be so evident the way that you play a game. I think everyone understands what you're trying to achieve out there, but it's one thing understanding and it's another thing being able to stop it. I think your side, and I'd just like to hear from you a little bit about how much or how clear it is to each player what his actual instructions are out there on the park. Yeah, I think and that's what's happened with a few of our quieter players, the communication side of things that we've got going at the moment. And we had Ken McGregor and Trent Henschel were actually regarded as quieter type players, but the communication on the ground and the demand from each other is what's really driving it all.
Red, that comes back, I suppose, to leadership as well. I mean, we've talked about the evenness of the group, but your star players are actually playing some career-best football in a lot of ways. You look at Goodwin, McLeod just seems to have gone back to the half-back flank and providing enormous run. Prosciutto, we know, is a champion. And Brett Burton's probably playing as consistent a football as he's played in his career.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that these players, these type of superstars, are actually getting better. And that's becoming about through forward line structures, I think, with Prosciutto and Burton, understanding their roles and sacrificing their game, but also with Bungie going back to half-back. He sacrificed his role week in, week out. And Goodwin does that by taking a tag and then moving on to another player. So I think the sacrificial side of their games often gets ignored, but they're definitely improving each week.
The ladder after 13 rounds makes great reading for Crows fans, particularly the percentage there of 171. It's on course to be one of the best ever, particularly in modern times, and a great defence has been fuelling that. How much of a focus was the defence this year? More so than normal?
Defence has gelled well. I think when we lost Nathan Bock, there were a few question marks, if they were asked, about who was going to go back there.
Sure.
And that was when Ken McGregor, we thought we might lose him from half forward, but Scott Stevens has stepped up. And I think the way in which the boys understanding when to run and when to attack from defence and when to make sure you're holding your opponent, it's definitely a strength to that whole back line.
So which one would Craigie be more happy with? Would he be more happy with a 23-goal victory where you're playing fantastic flowing footy, or would he be more happy with a miserly sort of, you've only let the opposition have 5 goals?
No, not too sure. He's happy with the win, but you've got to make any sort of spectacle which keeps the fans involved. He always wants to keep the fans involved, and he's just a footy person, so he wouldn't rather. I don't think he'd like to see that big blowout, but deep down he might.
Well, you've got all those no-shows turning up, or not turning up to AAMI Stadium, as we've been reading about in the advertiser. Let's have a look at the form ladder based on the last 4 games. Liam, it provides this insight. Have a look at that percentage over the last month of footy for the Crows, 236.89%.
Well, they're in unbelievable form. I mean, that's unbelievable from an AFL perspective. I just want to ask Brett this. I mean, it's a hard one. I know you'll probably give me the stock standard. We're just worrying about this week against the Swans. But is there a small block of, I mean, we hear about Neil Craig's training regime, I should say, where you go in blocks. Is there a block of games where you've got coming up? We've seen the last 4 there on the ladder. Or do you just look at it 1 week at a time? I'm assuming you'll probably say 1 week at a time.
No, I think they're a lot. They're actually dictated to by when you have a 6 or a 7 day break, and I think that extra day is crucial to getting optimum performance. So when you look at a Friday night game, I think against the Kangaroos, there might be the time after that when you probably crank up the training again. I think you're talking in regards to training. Is that what you're after?
I'm talking just in regards to how you set yourselves. Yeah. So I know from a training point of view, you go pretty hard over various periods, but even looking ahead as far as games you've got coming up.
I think. Yeah, it's difficult. You don't look too far ahead, obviously, but I think we've set our sights on Sydney probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago. We obviously identified them as being a priority club, and it's just the way they go about their business. We've tried to model ourselves on them, and this is going to be a test to definitely see how far we've come up against them this week.
Well, you're coming off a very good win against Geelong. Close game to quarter time. What clicked after that?
It actually felt like the Geelong game really did feel like it was close throughout the whole game. Their physical pressure was actually quite good. It was just the way in which we were the crucial goals we were able to kick, and they were the ones that sort of they either got another sniff. This Geelong got another sniff to get back in the game, or we really took a stranglehold on it and keep progressing to that 5, 6, 7 goals ahead.
We just see Brett Burton on the screen with his leaping mark. Ben in WA off our SMS wants to know about his leaping ability. Does he practice it at training?
Surprisingly, he doesn't. I was fortunate enough to play junior football with him, and it just comes about his aerobic capacity. Blokes can all jump like that, but he's so fit, he's able to do it more often. So that's the key to him.
Just with that fitness aspect, do you feel that your team has a fitness advantage over others? There's been a lot said about the training regime. Do you actually feel that way within the group?
I feel very confident in our fitness ability. I think that when pre-season came about and we had the balls out, we heard a lot earlier than other AFL clubs, that enhanced our confidence in our skills. And I think when we started to get into the games and run them out continuously, that there was an enormous amount of confidence in our fitness. So, I mean, that's credit to our training staff at the footy club, that's for sure.
And just on the fitness, is it true you're the quickest Crow over 20 metres?
I got beaten this year, but I think I've still got the record. I'm not too sure, but that only cost me $20 to bribe that record.
Who beat you this year?
I think Andrew McLeod got me this year. I think when I set that record was 3 years ago and I beat him then, but he's got me this year. I'm slowing up as I get a bit older and he just keeps bounding away.
And before we let you go, Charlie wants to know, how was your fishing trip in Cairns on the weekend off out on your boat the other week?
Didn't catch a great deal, but Charlie hopefully caught a lot more than what we did, but I'm not sure who he is, but had some fun and it was a good weekend off.
It sounds like it was pretty good if you're up in Cairns fishing. Congratulations on the year so far. Best of luck for a big game this Sunday. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks very much for that.
Rhett Biglands wasn't going to raise the other point about him. He waved pom-poms sitting in the cheer squad in the very first Adelaide Crows game against Hawthorn back in '91.
Don't bring that up.
So, no.
What we can gather out of that is that the Crows are taking it 1 week at a time, but they've been looking forward to Sydney for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'll just say one thing. I love that ladder that you put up, Clinton, because it's the only time this year that we've been over 100%.
Well, you didn't have a great start.
Getting better. One last word. When the Crows get to the finals, no name on this one, their game plan, will they be beaten in the finals?
I can't see it the way they're playing.
Okay. When we return, Jade Rawlings, and later, Terry's got his team of the week right here on White Line Fever.
Tonight on Headliners.
The word that we got that night was that the club was going to merge with Fitzroy.
Footscray's fight for survival.
Leon Weigard was looking for a takeover.
Ross Oakley rang. I said, a Footscray shot. He said, yeah, they're rooted.
But would internal unrest upend the doggies' bid to stay alive?
I kept a very, very close rein on Dennis Gallimberti. He wasn't a person that I liked nor trusted.
Colin really threw the club.
Harvey now goes long. Rawlings, he's got to be clean, and is. Squares the ball, bouncing, deserves a goal and gets it!
Well done. I was critical 2 minutes ago, but well done on that occasion.
What a goal that was. He eventually got to the Kangaroos to play alongside his brother, but 13 rounds in. That game against Richmond was the second, and to this point, the last that Jade Rawlings has played for his new club. Is a senior return imminent? Let's ask him. Welcome along. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Clinton.
You meant that goal all along, didn't you? That was a very good kick.
Thanks. Yeah, it's not something that's been part of my repertoire throughout my career, but I did have a quick look to centre it, but there was nobody there, so I thought I'd have a ping.
Why not? It worked. You're back this week, Sunday. Big game for the club, having won 2 in a row against the Bullies.
I'm not sure. I'm in the squad, which we have a meeting tomorrow, and then the squad will be announced tomorrow night. So I'll probably find out Friday, but I'm certainly hopeful. Unfortunately, didn't come back in after my suspension against Richmond, and played for Tassie against North Ballarat in the weekend, and yeah, performed the way I expected I should perform at that level. So hopefully I'm in the mix.
Is it hard playing in the VFL ranks after such a long AFL career?
It is, no doubt. I went to North Melbourne to play senior football. That was my sole objective, and unfortunately that hasn't been the case throughout the year. But I've at all times tried to uphold my integrity with the way I conduct myself at VFL level, and hopefully, I expect a fair bit of myself. But I've really enjoyed the association with the Tasmania Football Club. Matthew Armstrong being the coach, and Scotty Wade, general manager down there, have got a really good structure and a good setup, and been able to associate with a couple of young guys who made All-Australian under-18s on the weekend. Okay. So there's been a lot of positives, and also along with my North Melbourne teammates. So a lot of upside, but as I said, I'm there to play senior footies, and hopefully that will come back very soon.
Sure. Jade, how much harder is it to play against North Ballarat, which you played on the weekend? Of course, the other affiliate, North Melbourne, split their VFL side between Tassie and North Ballarat. You would have been lining up probably on a teammate.
Thankfully on the weekend I didn't have to, but the previous time Drew Petrie had just been dropped the week before, and I had to play on Drew, and I'd played on him the whole pre-season. I was hoping to get away from it, but he came back and I had to run with him. But on the weekend I played on Spider Maloney, I think Sean might be his first name, and he's a pretty honest defender and one of the probably better ones in the VFL. So on that front, it's good to at least be challenged by good VFL defenders at the same time, so you know that your form at least holds up and you get to that AFL, even though there's quite a significant gap in the standards.
Were you disappointed with your suspension? Just the timing was horrible. I mean, I know it was against us, and I'm not sort of dealing with anything with the issue with it, but just from a timing aspect, I mean, you got yourself back into the side. I thought you played terrific the week before.
Yes.
I really warned our guys about you, getting the opportunity and really being alive and alert and wanting to try. I thought you played a good game against us. Just the timing of it was a disaster.
Couldn't have been any worse, Terry. You're exactly right. And the one thing, if I don't bring anything else to the club, I just want to bring enthusiasm and a bit of exuberance and show people
the upside of playing league footy, it's fun, and I've been through a pretty hard time and just want to show that side, and hopefully that came out the way I played. And unfortunately, the timing of that incident, I've had nothing of the ilk my whole career, and unfortunately with what happened to Blake the previous week, there couldn't have been a hotter topic, and I better not say too much more about it. But
will you change your ways, having looked at it a few weeks ago, based on that? Because you disagreed, you challenged it, and you lost.
I've had no ways. It hasn't really been part of my game. That's why, and in all honesty, I stood on the mark at the time and thought, I really sort of still can't believe I was involved in that incident, even though I knew I'd definitely avoided the head. And once you see my action after I made contact with Richard, my next movement wasn't forward, it was actually back to go to the ball for a second effort. So that was our argument. Unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears, and I served the 1 week, but then that turned to 2 because we had the bye that weekend.
Sure.
And unfortunately, fortunately for the club, we won against Carlton, but they were happy with how the team worked, and there were only minimal changes following it for Essendon. So then my timing couldn't have been worse.
Take that incident out. Is it a difficult situation now, that head-to-head contact, just for players in general to know how they should be handling themselves?
Absolutely, Terry. And I heard Neil Danaher say after that incident, he showed the incidents to his players and to say, listen, these are the grey areas, and don't really push the limits too much. I would still like to have been shown what else I was supposed to do in the scenario, because I expected Richard to pick the ball up cleanly, which he does most of the time, 9 times out of 10. He fumbled, and the rest is history. But I would like to have had a blueprint of how else I was supposed to attack it, because if I didn't, I would have felt as though he would have attacked the ball harder than me, question marks in the box, maybe supporters, whoever else. So there's a lot of flow-on effect from you thought how quick one incident, how many thought processes can go through your mind.
All right. If you can break into the team for this Sunday, breaking into a winning team. 2 wins in a row, Carlton and Essendon. Good timing. Shannon Grant's 250th game on Friday night. Let's talk about the win over the Bombers. How'd you assess it?
I assessed it that I thought we were terrific early. There's a lot of massive rivalry between Essendon and North Melbourne. And you could really see in the first quarter that our boys were really ready for the contest. And I thought Essendon showed, after Sav took the big grab and missed from 7 metres out, that let Essendon back into the game. And it was game on. It was a good contest. But I think that we really kept them in it for a lot. We should have closed the gate much earlier than we did. I was disappointed I couldn't play in the game for personal reasons, just wanting to be in there, but also Shannon Grant's a ripping guy and a guy I've become really close to. But it's been really good for the club. We've had 2 good wins in a row. Having said that, we haven't been at the peak of our game at the same time. So 2 wins coming into the Bulldogs game, who probably the form side, second to Adelaide at the moment. It probably comes a good time. Talking to Terry before we came on air, that it's probably a good time to come up against them after we've got some form of confidence out of 2 wins.
You won despite Daniel Wells not playing a blinder. The question to emerge out of it, how does he maintain a consistent level? Because we know that his best is absolutely superb. Some are saying, Daniel, we've got to see it each week.
I think the critics of Daniel have been probably a bit harsh at times this year. I think his efforts of putting pressure on opposition and chase down tackles and the things that all coaches and supporters love to see have been at quite a high level. Everyone would wish that the ball could be in Daniel's hands more often because of what he does with it when he gets it. But I know for a fact, through talking to him, he's closely, and his training endeavours, that he's really putting everything in place to become a consistent player, his professionalism. And there's times where he looks like he's more open and doesn't get used, but I believe that his work rate is just on the cusp of going to the level it really needs to be. But I believe he's still conducting himself in the right way every week he plays.
Is that a team rule, Jade? The team rule is to get the ball into Daniel Wells' hand, because when he does get it, I mean, something generally happens. The other night, I think he was involved in 3 of the first 4 goals. I mean, he directly was involved in either kicked it himself or a couple of the kicks he did early in the game where he kicked it over the head of the defender. I think it's just a special skill.
It is. It's something you can't teach to many players, and you'll notice most of our midfielders and halfbacks who might not be as damaging kicks actually go to the way to get into his hands, which is the way it should be. I get annoyed with players who try and play outside their abilities, and we've got some guys that really direct it and try to get in Daniel's hands as much as possible, and his end of the bargain is to keep running hard enough to be rewarded.
Just like to ask Liam a question while we've got you here. Just with Daniel and players like him who come as such high draft picks, do we at times put too much expectation on them because of the number that comes with them?
Oh, I've got no doubt that that's the case, and I think I say this to all our players that get recruited as they get drafted. Getting drafted is one thing, but whether you're number 1 or whether you're number 61, once you're in the club, you're selected on form, and you know that yourself, Terry. If you've got a player who was picked up at pick 55, and he's putting in all the work at pre-season, and he's playing good football, he's going to be rewarded regardless. But I think from an outside point of view, whether that's the media or whether that's the supporters, there is an enormous expectation with a high draft pick. This kid's only 20 years of age. He's only a baby, really, in football terms. Played a couple of years of senior footy or 3 years of senior footy. So, you know, I think everyone's excited about when he gets to footy. So it's such a great player to watch.
He'll be on Sunday on Fox Footy. Let's take a couple of calls who've been patient. Thanks for that. Clem, a Bulldog fan first. Hi, Clem.
Hi, Clinton. How are you?
Good, mate.
I just want to ask your opinion, mate, about this farcical deliberate out of bounds rule. Now, how come when the ball goes down into the back line and you see this 20 times a game and the fullback just takes one big thump of the ball and it lands 40 metres out into the crowd, and there's no doubt that it was deliberate, how come it's never penalised?
Yeah, it's a good question, Clem. Jade, what do you think?
Thanks, Clem. I think, Clem, from the defender's perspective, when you were brought up, the boundary line was your best friend. If that got taken away, that you couldn't spoil a contest and the ball therefore go out of bounds, you'd be pretty stiff. So I think the judgment of out of bounds deliberately this year has been pretty red hot, and I'd hate to think that one would be included as part of that ruling.
Good on you, Clem. Thanks for that. Ollie's a Tiger fan. Hi, Ollie.
How are you, Clinton?
Good, mate.
Just wanted to ask Terry Wallace 3 quick questions if I can. I've only been waiting a month on the phone.
Thanks for being patient.
What would happen if we as a football club only had 16 or 17 fit players on the ground, Terry, meaning that some of the rookies that we've used are injured, and our senior players like Coughlin and that is also injured, so we only had 16 or 17 fit players. What would we do then?
Do you want to ask your next one first before we let you go?
Yes. In terms of the national draft this year, there's a young kid, Terry, you probably caught your eye on him, Mitch Thorpe.
Yes.
Would you be interested in actually going up the draft? Just say, for example, we finish in the 8 and we get the 8th pick. Would you be interested in actually giving our first 2 or first 3 draft picks to actually get him at maybe 2 or 3? And the third one, Terry, if I may. Port Adelaide are fantastic at clearances, Terry, and they're fantastic at actually getting first hands on the football, especially at centre bounces and around the ground. Now, in the losses that we've had this year, and Hawthorn, Footscray and Sydney, that is where they have crushed. That is where they have crushed us, and we need to pressure them because they are very, very soft, as Collingwood were on Sunday.
All right, Ollie, let's get to that. First of all, let's tackle Mitch Thorpe on the radar.
Oh, very much so. I mean, he's a quality player, and you always balance off to try to do what you possibly can to get up the draft if that's a capability. But you've got to give away something pretty special to get up the draft this year.
You certainly will. And just ask Jade on that one, because, Jade, you were talking about your work with some of those young players. Mitch Thorpe's one of those players that plays at Tasmania in a key position you've been working with.
Yeah, a really impressive kid. He's got a really good frame. He's 6'5" and looks like he runs really well, but he's got a really good infectious attitude, and guys seem to want to be around him. And he was voted the best player for Tassie at the Carnival and All-Australian, I think. So hopefully we get him back for the VFL through Tassie before the year's out.
Heaven forbid you get to 16 or 17, you'd go the VFL stocks with Coburg?
Well, I'm not really sure. I mean, that's something I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and I don't know what the answer to that question is.
Because it's getting close, particularly for someone like Brisbane, and the clearance is going to be big Saturday night.
It's going to be massive, and real credit, and people sort of say, oh, you're only saying it because you play them, but you do your homework on all the sides. Real credit to Sean Burgoyne and how far he's come in this competition. You have a look at the key statistical players. If you go on an average, he is right up there with the best.
Thanks, Ollie. We're now late. Terry's Team of the Week next on Late Line Fever.
Losers.
That's about as bad as it gets.
And everything in between.
Oh, what a beauty! Oh! He's getting out.
The winners, 7:30 Sunday night on Fox Footy Channel.
Scotland tries to fend off, can't do so. Power those magic hands. Finds Harding. Finds Stiller. And the young man kicks a goal. What a game he's played.
What a game indeed. Shaney Stiller named this week's rising star, but he only had one aim in mind: to get a spot in Terry's Team of the Week for round 13.
Well, he mostly played on the wing, and there were some other very good wingmen.
All right, well, you better reveal all.
From the back line. Yeah, Nathan Bassett having a really good season for Adelaide Crows. One of those players that doesn't get mentioned that much with Hudson and Gilby. Across the half-back line, had to fit in one of my boys.
He was good.
Andrew Ray's. I thought he's just set this standard. Manny Maguire's got back into some really good form, and McLeod's been fantastic all year.
Even with those boots.
Across the midfield, another Adelaide player in there. Love the way that Marty Matnup goes about his football. Westy doing it again. I was at the Melbourne game, and Travis Johnson was outstanding in that particular match. Another Adelaide player again, Brett Burton. They are the king of the castle at the moment. Nick Rewalt. And I had to get my old mate Nathan Brown. The first
his best
time
game back?
I thought it was his best game by far, especially first half.
Brad
Johnson, super in the game over in Perth. Nathan Thompson, geez, he's having an outstanding year. And Michael O'Loughlin, I thought was best on the ground in the game up in Sydney on Saturday night. Troy Simmons in the ruck, just about all Australian ruckmen, along with Brendan Lade. I think that'll be a fantastic duel this Saturday night. Cameron Bruce dominated that game. Rob Harvey just keeps on keeping on.
Oh, there he is.
Well, he made it. And look, a few young boys there. Still Blackwell and Richichelli all on the interchange bench for my side. Great to see some young kids there, along with that other youngster, David Meeks.
And your votes this week, the 3, 2 and 1?
3, 2 and 1 were just purely and simply for the tough breaks of the weekend. And there were some really tough breaks. And I started with the number 1 with Chris Newman. He's a really key player for us in our structure, in our side, and disappointing. Number 2, I hate to see young kids going down, and I give a dual role for both Mark Murphy and Sean Higgins. I think we like to see our youngsters playing on a regular basis. 3 votes for the toughest break of the weekend was Big Dean Cox. He is really going to be missed by the West Coast Eagles. He's just such a dominant player, and I think if any of the sides looked at who they would least like to lose, I mean, I think the West Coast lost the most on the weekend.
Yeah, pretty sure they would have been happy that they kept big Michael Gardner on ice for that little period.
Nice
for this
timing
exact
just to
thing.
bring him back, wasn't it? Let's check our viewer poll where last night we asked you to tell us, should James Hird play on in 2007? Here's how you voted. And 67% saying, nah, Jimmy, this is it. Good night.
Keep going.
Tonight, the question's this. What's been the best innovation in the modern game? The headsets at training of the Crows, the GPS tracking, St Kilda's portable VCRs, which we've seen today, the ice vests, or the stretcher carts. Log on, have your say, www.foxfooty.tv. E?
Yeah, get the injured players off the ground.
Hayley, Demon fan, g'day.
Hi. I just wanted to talk about State of Origin.
Yep.
I'd love it to come back, and I just had an idea that I don't think a lot of people really care about the NAB Cup competition. So I thought maybe we could do, at the start of the year, State of Origin competition, then a 4-week knockout competition with all the states involved for one winner. Maybe call it the NAB State of Origin Cup or something.
I think we all agree, Hayley, we need State of Origin back. I'm not sure what the best format is. Maybe every Olympic year.
Yeah, possibly. I could